companies like Twitter have stated that they could permanently move online. With us, we have some professionals in design engineering to discuss the changes that could come from these transitions and what they mean for upcoming designers. Attending, I see, are some of my classmates and combat robotics teammates. Thanks for coming, you guys. And first, I'll let Jean introduce himself.
Thank you, Sebastian, Professor Hoffman, and all the new digital tribe around design thinking and about thinking. I think is very interesting. I have also the original IBM sign. You know, Jobs was saying think different. So that's why Jobs was saying think different, because IBM, Big Blue, was saying think. I think this is key about what is happening now. So very humble. I just have one slide about myself and about what I am doing here. And then of course is more a conversation. I am open to answer, and also I will ask a lot of things about what could be design thinking as a tool to interact now and in the future in this new ecosystem, because this is not a crisis, this is a new ecosystem. It's like moving to Japan and being not very comfortable and being a little bit stressed because we are in Japan. You know, you have to learn a new language, you have to keep your shoes outside, you have to cover your mouth. It's like being in Japan, but all over the world. No? So it's not a crisis, it's a new ecosystem. That's why it's so important to have this kind of conversations and to open our minds and to think more, because we need thinkers. We do not need automats. So I will share with you my screen. I hope is okay. The screen is okay? It's full screen?
Yes, perfect. Actually, now, yes, it is now.
All right. So here on the screen, it's my life. So since 20 years, I am showing the same slide in all my presentations. I grew up, I am from La Gran Sabana in Venezuela, at the border between Brazil and Venezuela. My dad and my mom moved there to have a very, very rainforest life, connected with environment, etc. So the idea was to speak about my life during many presentations in universities, etc. I was during 20 years as a top executive in L'Oréal. So I was in Asia and Europe. I was in charge of the businesses. I opened Pakistan, Iran, Saudi Arabia, Egypt, Syria. And also I was in Eastern Europe as a general manager, in charge of all the business, all the P&L. Of course, I started as a sales rep, and then a product manager, then marketing manager, etc., etc. So the idea then was to show you my life as something that has a beginning and an ending also. So this is my resume, but on the same time, showing my resume was to me a very, very interesting opportunity also to discuss and to share about my future, not only the past, not only my achievements, but also my projects, my dreams, my ideas. So that's it. The idea of this slide is to show the past, of course, the present, and the future. And in each presentation is always the same. People are asking, okay, you grew up in the rainforest, and you were, I am a Knight of National Order of Merit from France. I have kids. I was married one time, and now I'm married a second time. And then you have my last interview with my grandmother on the top. You have my kids. You have my dad in the rainforest looking for diamonds. We were diamond prospectors. You have my two first kids. Now they are Sarah and Gabriel. They are 20 years old. They are in the university like you guys. Abel, he's from 2017, so there's a different story. And I have dreams. I have projects. One of them is to have a Honda jet. I am an ambassador for Honda Jet, Honda Aircraft in Greensboro in North Carolina. And of course, one of my biggest projects is to go to Mars. I am a specialized diver, advanced diver. I love to dive at night, of course, because when you dive at night, you are like in space. And voila, the idea, and then today I quit L'Oréal in 2015, and I start my startup, an app, a social network, to propose a different way to connect people and to make also to open opportunities and to potentialize relationships between people online, like eBay in the 90s, but now with a social network approach. So the idea of this slide, and this is only one slide, is to show you that the steps of design thinking, empathy, to define, ideate, prototype, and test, you can apply. And if you are interested about design thinking, and if you want to become a design thinker in your life, in your professional, in your projects, you must apply design thinking in your life. This is very important. That means you have to be very humble. You have to be very empathetic with people. You have to understand where you are. And I call this step of empathy also meditation, to learn and to accumulate data, and also to doubt, to be less, to be humble. This is very important. Then to define in life is also to be in love with problems, not only be focused on solutions, because otherwise you lost the problem and you focus on your solution, say, okay, my product is the best, I have the solution, and you forget the problem. So the problem is more interesting than the solution. For instance, in this slide, my problem is you have a life with many achievements and many projects. You will die, and we are not making it happen in terms of assets. We are not transforming our life in an asset. For instance, when we began this conversation, Professor Hoffman was putting a background about Metropolis. The point that I am connecting the dot with the movie Metropolis, and now I am eager to go to see Metropolis after this chat. We go to Metropolis tonight just to reconnect with the movie. But the connection between Professor Hoffman and myself, thanks to a movie, this is an asset. This is something that has a value. And that's why empathy is so important. And then, of course, to define the challenge, the problem, to understand where we will go to action. And then, of course, the other step of ideas, brainstorming. And for instance, this slide is a very, very good tool to brainstorm about my personal life, to brainstorm about your personal and professional life too. This is a very good tool also to project yourself using my own personal lifeline. And then, of course, when we talk about prototype, about building something, about making something, in my case is the application, is Urigi, is the app, this is my product, thanks to this slide and thanks to my life, thanks to my experience. So I had an idea in the 90s, and this idea grew up. An idea is good because if the idea is persistent, is resilient. If your idea is resist to time, your idea will be good. If your idea die in the time, your idea will disappear. So the idea is the result of the brainstorm and the life storm too. So a good idea is because you have a good definition of the problem and you have a good, humble empathic approach of the situation, of the context. And to finish testing. Now, close to 50 years old, in my case, is the moment to test. It's time to test, it's time to prove, it's time to apply what I've learned in my life. So my personal life and my professional life are the same. And my products, my realization, my projects are the same. It's the same movement. That's why it was interesting to share with you guys about the relation between design thinking and also life as an asset. Why? Because a project has also a life. An idea has also a beginning and maybe an ending. Otherwise, try to measure you can do the same lifeline about Boeing. You take Boeing. Boeing is the most safe, secure, is the brand of America, Boeing. And now you take the 777 and you will understand why an idea with a bad design thinking approach, with a bad human focus, could become a catastrophe. So Boeing is a very, very good example. Before Boeing, it was the same about Toyota effect with the suppliers and the relationship with suppliers and the fact that you break the DNA, not only of the brand, but of the company, the engineer's DNA, the engineer's way of collaborating to be successful with an idea and of course to test this idea. So Boeing is a very, very good example, and it's not a pretty beautiful example. Even to space, you saw the project, the competition between Boeing and SpaceX. Thank you so much. I think that's it on my side. Of course, we can come back. I am open to collaborate with you, with every one of you. I am very, very open to chat, to open the company, to the summer internships, etc. I am here for you guys. Now is moment to share, to connect, and to build this new ecosystem. But the new ecosystem, the post-COVID-19, is not something new. It is the continuation, is the continuity of many, many steps, many, many trends that are creating this new ecosystem and creating these new design thinkers. So thank you so much for this opportunity to talk with you guys. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you. Could you, now I'm going to let Professor Hoffman introduce himself. And afterwards, I'll ask some more questions.
So hi, everybody. First of all, thanks, Jean. I love this slide of your past and future life. There's a lot of detail there. I looked at the timeline and how time is not linear on it, how it's like stretched in some places and compressed in others. Also, thanks, Sebastian, for bringing us together, which is a very, I mean, I don't know if I would have ever met you. So I'm always grateful for people who make connections, which make things happen. Also, did you know we were born the same year? I noticed. So, what month were you born? We have the same birth.
I am a virgin. August.
You're so young. You're young. No, I was born in May. So I'm a professor at Cornell, assistant professor. I'm here for the last 4 or so years. I was born in Israel in '73. I'm inspired by the way that you presented yourself, so I'm going to go with your style because I like to copy. And do variations. Also, I know some people don't like it and some people are kind of uncomfortable or unable to do this, but if you can share your video, it would be a much more communal. There's not a lot of people in the room, so if you want to share and open your video, it would be great for just us, whoever's speaking, to give a sense of other people in the room and not just names and black boxes. So I was born in Israel. That same year, a pretty traumatic war broke out in Israel. The Yom Kippur War or the October War, depending on who tells the story. My dad went away to the army. My mom was full-time working and left her newborn and 1 year old, my brother's 1 year older, to the neighbors. And after the war was over, she was the, you know, screw that, I can't raise a family here. And we moved to Germany when I was 1 year old, like right after the war. My family moved to Germany, and I had no memory of Israel, but my father always missed it. And at some point he left and went back to Israel. And we grew up in Germany with our family. And when I was in 9th grade, my parents decided to move us all back to Israel without any prior notice. So that was like the first time when I realized that I was what was like 7th, 8th grade, and you go to a summer vacation in a tropical country, and in August they tell you you can't go back home. So this was kind of like I decided to move back to Israel, and we had to sort of get used to that idea. We didn't speak a word of Hebrew; we just spoke German. And we had friends in Germany, and there was McDonald's and Burger King in Germany that was not there in Israel. There wasn't, like, even Pepsi was not in Israel. There was a lot of like things that as a teenager you care about. And you suddenly start in a new world that's, you know, very hot and doesn't have dubbing in movies. And I think that ties back to what Jean was saying, is that uncertainty is not an unusual thing. Uncertainty is the default. And you might just be sometimes duped into the sense of certainty, but you have to remember that that's an illusion usually. And I think that's especially hard for students at Cornell. I don't know how many of you are Cornell students, but I think Cornell is has a mentality of certainty around it, about like what do we know, how do we know it, like what, you know, this idea of knowing what you need to know is very much embedded generally in the American education system, but especially in a sort of like top level of that. So, short biography. I graduated high school. I had a year before I had to go join the army in Israel. Everybody used to go to the army at 18. So I was 17. I had a year left. I decided that I wanted to go to study at college in the US, and I applied, but very quickly realized that I was too scared to move across the world at 17, and went to university in Israel. I studied philosophy for a year in age 17. And after that, I was drafted at 18 and went to the army, where I spent 5 years eventually. And I was, so I was working mostly in like technology and technology sector of the Israeli army. And learned how to program, learned, you know, how to spend a lot of time without doing anything, which is what you do a lot in the army. And then when I was 23, I got released and went to travel around the world for a year, and came back and started my first job as a programmer, and started university. And I did my university studies. I kind of bounced around a lot. I studied computer science, I studied psychology, I studied film, and I always wanted to be a filmmaker. That was my dream. My biggest dream was to be a filmmaker. And but then my parents were very practical, and they said you have to study computer science as well, just to be on the safe side. And so I studied computer science and film, and eventually got very much into AI and computer vision, combined these two, and then went to work for a large company for several years after my undergraduate. I went to work for Checkpoint, which is they make security products. I worked on network security for the early mobile internet. So in the 90s, I was working on trying to make 3G, 2.5G at the time, safer, and building firewalls for that. I got bored after a few years, I got bored with this, and I really wanted to go back to film school. And so I took some odd jobs as a production assistant in some productions. I just went and like drove cars around and brought water bottles to people, and realized that it was not a fun job to work in the film industry. But then I thought, what about animation? I thought animation might be fun. You're in an air-conditioned room and you still make movies. So I took all my savings at the time and went to New York to study animation. Left my job and burned through all my savings within a year studying animation. But I learned a lot about like just a lot about how you tell a story, how you present things visually, how emotions relate to movement. And at that time, there was a new research group starting up at MIT around human-robot interaction. New professor was starting a research group, and I applied to grad school. I applied only to this one group. I didn't do the whole like 50 grad school applications. I was really interested in working with her, and I got in, surprisingly. I didn't even think I was going to get in. And then I did my PhD there, working on and was exposed to robotics for the first time, and started working on human-robot interaction, mostly on the AI side. And through a bunch of different postdocs and other positions, I ended up sticking with research around that. I was part of 2 startups along the way. So I was founded 2 startups. That was like the CTO or co-founder, one in the 90s before the 2000 bubble, and one in 2012 to 14. And this was, they were both failures, commercial. I mean, the first one got a lot of funding over the years, like over 10 million at the time. But eventually we had to close down when in 2000, the whole tech sector collapsed. And then in 2014, I decided to seek sort of new opportunities and applied for a couple of jobs in the US. And at the end, I ended up moving from Israel to Cornell and started my job there about 4 years ago. And I teach the mechanical design class, which is called 2250. And I've changed a lot about the curriculum, and I've been thinking mostly about education, because that's what I've been doing for the last 10 years. So I think a lot about how do students learn something? How do you know if you're doing a good job? And how do you teach the things that you can't teach by giving certain rules to do them? So a short introduction.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you. I first have a question for Jean. Do you think software and applications are the future for designers, as in no longer like material objects?
I was thinking a lot of things before the new world. I was thinking about the end of designers, the end of engineers, the end of coders, the end of doctors, and the end of lawyers, because artificial intelligence, of course. I was thinking about it. I still think that artificial intelligence now years are months. That means these 3 months are in fact 3 years of evolution, of acceleration, of many, many things. We have to take care with these 3 months or 4 months or 5 months or 6 months, because it's 6 years in terms of evolution and in terms of implementation of many, many things in our life. 3D printing, self-driving cars, ni hablar in Spanish about health, all the medical sector, of course. But of course, I think because confinement, because the virus, because the pandemic, the human factor is now on big top for politicians, for designers, for engineers. In fact, you will need a very, very strong mental mindset. You will need a functional family. You will need to be very, very, to have new skills, soft skills. Now I am doing a sort of internship in is a Coursera thing, is a first aid on psychological first aid on the Universidad de Barcelona, psychological first aid. So it's amazing because you learn to help others in case of crisis, a psychological crisis. So to answer your question, I think, in fact, we are the software. So the hardware is artificial intelligence. this is very bit conceptual, okay? This is Jean talking. It's not the truth of the truth, okay? So I think we are the software, and artificial intelligence will become the hardware. Conceptual. It's not about real hardware and real software. But I really think that our input and the add value, and there is a very interesting YouTube debate between Jack Ma and Elon Musk about what will happen in the future about artificial intelligence and human emotions, or design thinking and more mechanical thinking, more organized mechanical organization of ideas instead of having something more organic. So I really think we are the new software. And that could be my tweet today. I will tweet this. Because I really think that now, because confinement, because COVID-19, we are discovering that we are connected more than we think before, that we need each other more than we think before. I am now in Venezuela. You imagine Venezuela before the crisis is like North Korea. Now, never mind. It's not, I don't care where you are because I am in the same situation as you. We cannot travel. We cannot have okay, so we need to be connected. That's why I think we are the software. So in terms of engineering, of designers, of material objects, wow. Because we are not we are not physically connected. You are not with me. I cannot meet you. I cannot travel to New York State, and I cannot go there. We have to think more. We have to discuss more, and we have to put more ideas and more human factor. And then we just print it. So then it's not a real problem to create something. But of course, will be a disaster if it's not it's not fitting with the real needs of people, etc. So it's very interesting because for just something, before COVID-19, all the t-shirts, all the sneakers are produced in China. All the earphone, you cannot imagine how many AirPods are now stuck in China. There is AirPods everywhere. You can have a AirPods swimming pool. You can swim in AirPods. So it's very interesting because that kind of high consumption is changing, and maybe in few months we will produce t-shirts and sneakers, shoes, Nike, Adidas in the USA, in Germany, because we have the machines. We can print any kind of things. It's cheaper than China, and it's not infected with the famous coronavirus. So this is a little bit my reflection.
Perfect. Thank you. So next question for Professor Hoffman. As John said, with frugality playing a bigger role for many people during these times, will sustainability play a bigger role in product design?
Yeah, so I've thought about this question. You actually sent it to me ahead of time. And I think we are still not very clear what the economic fallout of this is going to be. I think it's one of those, even that is one of those very confusing things where we can't use our previous experience almost to predict the future. There's this big question, why is the stock market doing so well when everybody's losing their job? What is going on there? And this is, there's actually been for the last 10 years, been a big question of why does the labor market not respond like it has always responded to interest rates? I think when you're saying that frugality is going to be a big part, you're kind of assuming that people will not have spending power because they have lost their jobs. But I would actually take one step back and say, I don't even know if what is going to happen with the job market a year from now, 2 years from now. It could be, I think they're going to look at this and have to create completely new models of how the market reacts to things like this, because usually the people are losing their jobs because of something underlying the economy is sort of not working. Over investment in a certain resource in a country or something like this. Here, people have been losing it because the government told them to stop working, which has never happened before. Like, the government has never told people to stop working. And in some way, businesses want to open, they want to employ people want to spend money, and they want to, so I think all of our preconceptions have to be sort of reimagined. So I would say, I would take a question about frugality and say that we are now in a position where we are reevaluating human values. It's not just about frugality and sustainability. I think they're just one aspect of this multifaceted gem that we're looking at, which is that we are reevaluating what we think we need, what we enjoy doing, how much time we have, like all the basic things that are driving all of our other decisions. So usually you have had, your life, you have had some goals, you know how much time you have, you know how much time you have in a week, you know how much time you want to spend with friends and what that means. You want to know how much time you want to spend, doing sports and what that means. And all of these things are sort of shook up, and you have to rethink about like what it is that you actually need. As to sustainability, I think we're also seeing in a way that a lot of things that we thought were normal levels of consumption or normal levels of use are, you can very quickly get used to other levels, which is something I always said about people. Actually, from studying robotics, I said that because people always say, people will never accept something or something. And I always say people accept everything. People are, if there's one thing, people's norms can change overnight. If there's anything you learn from history, is that the thing that you think is definitely true is definitely not always true. But the other thing that I also always say is that people's emotional needs and behavior almost never change. So you have the sort of social and value systems, which can change immediately. And then people's emotional needs, they change very slowly, if at all. And I think looking at this balance is kind of what we should be looking at in design, rather than just looking at sustainability, because I think sustainability is just one of those aspects of this question of human values. I also want to say something else if we're doing a little bit of like forward looking, and especially as like somebody working in robotics.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think this is a great opportunity. So there's a famous saying in robotics about the 4 Ds. Like, robots are made for jobs that are one of the 4 Ds, the letter D: dirty, dull, dangerous, and distant. So for anything that's dirty, dull, dangerous, or distant, we should use robots for. And suddenly now we're looking at a whole new set of things that are dirty. Suddenly things that we thought are just normal, like tables, they might be dirty. Suddenly other people are dangerous, which is something that we're all starting to feel. We're looking around at people and we're asking, does this person, threaten my life just by even unknowingly? And suddenly distant, everything is distant. It's not just Mars that you need robots for. If I could have a robot that goes to pick up my pizza, I saved another danger for myself, right? So again, I think holding on to like some core principles of what the meaning of things is, but then not being attached to how they actually play out in the world is a really important skill right now.
Thank you. There is a question in the chat if you would like to answer that before I ask John another question from Daniel Vargas. Is Army using design thinking to iterate their software, hardware, and intern work process?
Well, first of all, I haven't been in the Army since the 90s, so I'm not sure I can comment on this. My experience was, at least where I was, it was that they were pretty much ahead of the curve in terms of the way that they integrated methodologies at the time. I think when nobody was thinking about personal computers. We were working on a project of integrating computers into the whole workflow of what we were doing. So the army has a lot of, you know, labor and a lot of money, so they can take risks often.
Thank you. Okay, the next one's for Jean. As companies are going remote, do you think that'll put a greater emphasis on teaching and mastering design software and other types of testing software?
I think now remote and the next months, remote is not a real problem. I think we are preparing the remote mutation shift since many years as well. Now it's accelerating, okay, but I think remote will be an asset to be more efficient, more focused on all processes, and to work on a more collaborative way. That means to share more, to take part of the problem and to solve it on a more collaborative way, less vertical. It's very difficult to be vertical on remote. So it's like, you are my team, and okay, guys, this is not good. No, you cannot be upset on Zoom. It's very difficult. So you cannot be really vertical on remote. And this is very interesting. It means you need to be more to share and to be more transparent about your process of thinking, about your process of designing, about your process of creation. That's why family companies, for instance, on a large approach, are more able to adapt to this new ecosystem, because family spirit companies are more flexible, more organic, and a lot of very, very well structured companies, corporations, it's very, very difficult to manage. That you will have less worldwide meetings in the same Marriott hotel to dispose orders, and will be less vertical, less politics, and more about focus on the result, focus on the process, and focus on the success. And that's one very, very important point about remote. But it's not only about remote, it's about also about back to school. In fact, and now you are back to school. I am back to school, listening after Professor Hoffman. Hoffman is teaching me. I am learning now. I am learning with your questions, and Sebastian as well. So the fact that now we are always back to school every day is improving a lot the way. That's why I am telling you that we are the new software, because we are connected, we are sharing a lot, we are free to learn and to bring more ideas, more inputs in the process. This is very, very interesting. So I can now I am talking with you. I have six screens: one screen, two screen, the phone, three screen, the computer, fourth screen, the iPad, and I have another computer and another computer. So I can be holistic on my approach.
It also, I think, has to do with trust, right? I mean, a lot of, when you talk about family companies, they have an inherent system of trust that you don't have with a kind of a more global conglomerate. And I know if you are,
Professor,
like you as a manager, how do you deal with your employees? Like how does it work for you?
In my case, it's about, of course, about trust, and trust is not something poetic, and it's not just about you are my son and you are my grandmother or you are my dad. I think you can be a little bit more more organized about trust. I think trust is about interactions, is about transparency of these interactions. Trust is about the process. If you have a good process, a good checklist, for instance, the astronauts this afternoon, you saw that there is plenty of screens, etc., but the checklist is on paper, on the leg. So it is a real checklist. So if I am the manager of the astronauts, okay, I have the cameras, but at the same time, guys are with a real pen and a real paper on a very 2020 spaceship, SpaceX. So trust is something very visual. There is a checklist for trust. I think trust is about collaboration. Now it's very difficult to be malhonnête, dishonest is more difficult because you will lose reputation, you will lose qualification, rating. So I need 5 stars, at least 4 stars, like an Uber driver from this exchange with you guys, because otherwise maybe some LinkedIn dislike here, dislike where. So I will lose trust. In fact, I will lose digital trust. So Arun Sundarajan in the Sharing Economy, the Blue Book, The End of Employment, the Sharing Economy subtitle, The End of Employment, was about also the digitalization of trust. I think, and this is me, in my mind, I think blockchain, not the cryptocurrencies, the blockchain philosophy behind, before any kind of crypto blah blah, speculative blah blah, I think the blockchain approach is the digitalization of trust. If I am saying, I grew up in the rainforest, you have to check. You have to check. And now you can check because you have big data. So with data, you can check, and artificial intelligence will check a lot. I am a family man. Okay, but your kid is saying on Instagram that you hit your kid every night, you beat your kid. So you will have a problem. Even if you are an engineer, a very, very cold guy, you will have a problem if you have a dysfunctional family. So trust now is like, you know, like Uber. If you have the money, you have the credit card, you have the app in your phone, and the Uber will come in 45 minutes. Why? Because you have a very low rating. So if you had some problems in your Uber experience and the drivers are qualifying you like this, you will have a problem to arrive to the meeting in your Uber or your self-driving car.
Until they sell you, they upsell you, you know, they will tell you, we can get you for, you know, a little bit more money, we can get you the faster drivers.
That's true. Thank you. All right. Would you like to answer the same question about teaching and mastering design software, since that's a big part of what you did this year for our class?
Again, I've said this in class, and I don't know how many of you were in my class, but I don't think learning a skill is not the most valuable thing for being a hireable employee. I think you want to learn how to use your skills. You want to learn how to communicate what you do. You want to learn how to think, how to adjust to new environments, and you want to learn how to self-reflect, which is one of the most valuable things that you can have. And I can teach, give me 2 weeks with anybody who has a good high school education. I can teach them the software to a degree that they will be good enough to do something and pretty good 2 months from now. And it costs me 2 months of salary, so it's not a problem. But teaching somebody how to work in a team and how to understand how they are affecting the process is very hard. And it's something that the person has to do from their own motivation. And it's not, and it's a hard thing to do because it's painful usually. I mean, you work in I'm going back to, I'm getting the emails of all the trouble in water pump teams, right? So I can get the long emails from students who, this student did this and they didn't do this, and I can see and I know the teams that you're working in. I mean, it's not easy, and you have to face the things that you haven't faced in 20 years, which is, am I somebody who takes over control or that doesn't trust other people? You know, am I afraid to do something that I think I'm not good at? And then answering this question, I think, is more valuable than any specific software. You should learn software because you want to be able to know. I think you should think about software not as something that your employer needs from you, but you should think about it as the joy of learning a craft, you know, to express yourself in the way that you want to express yourself. So if you have an idea for some amazing product, you want to learn how to sketch to show that idea to other people. And it's not that you need to know how to sketch because that's what people expect from you. That's about learning software, in my opinion. I love learning software. I think it's fun, and it's fun to be able to do something and show what you did. I see also there's a question on the chat from Alba.
Yes, go ahead.
Pronunciation. So Alba, do you want to ask the question maybe? Because I'm not like what are your concerns about the?
Hi.
Like, hi.
Recently, I was watching a TED Talk about a professor, I don't remember the name, and he was telling that we are trying to develop new jobs using old job theories where it was useful for industry about post-World War II, but now it's not useful anymore. So I know that we are trying to develop ourselves as professionals and as persons. So what kind of mindsets should we work to, I don't know, to stop thinking like, you know, we used to work like, do this, your bosses used to tell us, you have to do this, you have to do this, and we have now to reframe to, okay, let's think different, let's be more creative, let's be more innovative, but how to reframe our mindsets to shift to that kind of new ways that employers need us to think.
So I'm going to answer briefly. I'm also really curious what John has to say about this because I'm sure he does. I mean, especially having been in like two very different industries and two very different scales of companies. So I can only speak from my life experience and not so much from a management perspective. But I found that you should take opportunities without worrying too much about what they are. I think you should be risk-taking. You can learn a lot almost with anything you do, except not doing anything. You know, if you don't do anything and stick to what you're doing, you will probably stay where you are a year from now. But I was twice in my life, I was in a very bad economy. I had to take jobs that were completely not in my area. And I had to move to places I didn't want to live in. And in both of these cases, I had a huge growth in my personal, professional and personal capabilities. And I think I'm going to cite some movie director that I really like. I'm blanking. Sorry. Michel Gondry, who I don't know if you've seen some of his movies. You probably have. I don't remember his name. He gave a talk, and somebody asked him, "What do you recommend to young directors? Like, how can they be successful?" He says, "I have something like recommend to all young people. There's two mistakes young people make: they don't start things and they don't finish things. So you have to learn how to start things and to learn how to finish things. And you don't start things because you're not sure it's the right thing, and there's these other options, and then you're also pretty good at what you're doing right now. And so learn how to start things. Learn how to say, this is not the best, but this is what I'm starting. And then learn how to finish things. Learn when to say, okay, this is good enough, and I have to move on to the next thing. So I think it's really, I think you need to take risks. You need to not, don't think you can figure it out before you start, but instead start something and figure out what you can learn once you're inside whatever you're doing. Jean, what's your view?
I'm fully agree. I think you say a word is the craft, your trade, the relation with what you are doing. with this word of craft. It's beautiful. I think we are back to essentials. We are in this process of, I think if you are a hairdresser, you will never have a problem with unemployment in the next 100 years. So it's funny because hairdressers is not the top job that you can imagine as something that you have to study in Harvard. But maybe in the future, the hairdressers will be in charge of psychological balance of people facing artificial intelligence, because this is a big step to help Elon Musk theory of artificial intelligence everywhere and no jobs because everything is automatic. So I think more than what to study, for instance, I study letters. I am from La Sorbonne and Paris. I study letters, so books. I know how to read books and to analyze a poetry, a Proust, etc. And now I am in charge of a scale-up startup, tech, plenty of engineers. I have 20 engineers with me, designers, UX. And L'Oreal was about marketing, about sales, about shampoo and makeup. Was not about letters, you know. So okay, and so I am a teacher. In fact, I am a professor. Could be. So the point is not what you study, but as Steve Jobs was saying one time, it was about how you connect the dots. No? How you connect this movie of Metropolis, of the future of mega cities like Sao Paulo, which is bigger than Mexico, and cities will become new countries, and how you understand what will happen with citizenship, because citizenship is related to Metropolis. The new citizens, you will see them in a movie from close to 100 years ago. So it's very interesting to connect the dots. And I think it's more about the fact that you can have, of course, there will be less opportunities. There is less opportunities because machines are doing great, and voila. So and there is plenty of unemployment. Unemployment is a big issue. It's a social divide. And the world is now could be cool, but could be not cool. Could be, I am a legend from Will Smith. This is the other Metropolis, no? Metropolis without anybody. And the problem is unemployed means hungry, real hungry. So we have to equip ourselves to this new world. So it's very important to learn how to catch opportunities. As Professor Hoffman say, you have to be open-minded and you have to be like Jim Carrey. Yes, man. Yes to everything. So yes. There is a talk, I don't know about design thinking, whatever. Yes. Why? Because there is less opportunities. So you will need to learn to catch opportunities, to be open-minded, to be less planification and more about discovering, about thinking, about brainstorming, about making connections, about giving your WhatsApp, about chatting. You have to chat, you have to ask, you have to go forward, and it's about people. So the real asset, of course, is more you have friends, more you are connected, more you discuss, with, it's not Professor Hoffman, it's Guy, it's not Sebastian Barquín, it's Sebastian. So it's very important to enlarge your network on the trust approach, of course, proving what you are. And the other point is communication. And this is not a job. If I have a restaurant and there is a pandemic, okay, we will go for delivery or pickup, whatever. But the restaurant with a better digital tribe will succeed, because the people don't care about the fact the restaurant is open or closed. They want to eat your food. So they will call you by WhatsApp. There is an app. Okay, there is an app. I use the app, so I don't care. But they will ask to maintain, to belong to you and to your food. So it's about people, and this is very important. It's not, even if you have machines, drones, you will need somebody to cook, or even to say that his food is good. So voila, this is my point. The craft is very important, to craft things. Could be software, could be hairdressing. My wife, she's a baker. I am here because my wife, I was in L'Oréal, and my wife started to become a baker because she loves to make bread, baker. So she started on Instagram, it likes followers. She was making a lot of money with her bread. So I was, okay, there is an opportunity. So it was about, I am now in technology. I am now in a startup worldwide because a baker, because my wife showed how important was to improve the digital, connection transaction with the wallet inside, how to pay the bread. So it was about bread. So this is very interesting.
Thank you. We're gonna cut in a few minutes, but I want to ask Sophia's question, and then I have one last one after that. So how do you think the collaborative design process is going to change now that interactions through remote work are more intentional? And Guy, you could start since Jean just spoke.
I think we learned that we like to be together, and I think that collaborative design, I believe, well, the technology enables us to do some design work remotely together. I think the limitations are there, and I think people will still prefer to find ways to meet and work together. Part of it is that what, like when I asked the student at the end of the semester, like, do you like this type of instruction? And everybody's like, oh, Udacity and whatever, and Coursera. And then everybody is depressed, people are at home. I mean, some people enjoy it, they can rewind the videos, and everybody's like, this is not fun. Like, this is supposed to be the future. If this is the future of the university, don't sign me up. And I think the same thing, I think future of design is the same thing. When you're in the room with somebody and you throw ideas back and forth, we are social animals, we like to be together, and we like to make things together. We like to think about things together. I don't think it's always just about efficiency, or when you say interactions are more intentional, I think they're more intentional, but they're also lacking something of our ability to let go from the social energy that's in the room, and therefore we might not be able to reach the same design outcomes. I don't know if I answered that question even, but I improvised on the theme of the question.
No, I fully agree. Not everything is online or remote or Zoom. And maybe we are back to offline things. We are back to a lot of offline approach. And of course, interactions are very important. We are social. There is ways to increase your presence, augmented presence, to be present, to be there. There is ways. So we will invent ways, even if we cannot have always real contact, physical contact. There is ways, there is methodologies to invent. For instance, to create some atmospheres, to invent the connection. But we need in the process, we need to be there in the same place. The unicity of the place is very important. It's Latin hic et nunc. That means here and now. So hic et nunc is very important. Is the teacher.
That's from the Sorbonne.
Who?
See, that's the letters.
So ici et maintenant, and now and here is very important. Of course, there is ways to increase. For instance, I just give you an example. Since 2 years, I am never calling my phone my mother. Everything is on WhatsApp. So, and we are connected. We are there. So pictures, videos, the kids, the food, the FaceTime, etc. But just this example, because we are talking about Zoom, I am remote, blah, blah, okay. But in my case, and many cases, WhatsApp, before Zoom, before the COVID-19, it's changing WhatsApp or FaceTime, whatever. It's changing everything. So even my hand is not, I lost the habit of being like this. Is something that I am not doing. I am like, what is that? Was ist das? I am not doing this. So I am okay, this, the voice, all right? So something is happening. Something is happening. Then in my case, because we are looking about our users, the data of the users, something is moving the screen. You're seeing the big data people, and of course we are GDPR, we protect the data of our users. We are not making advertising. We are not selling your information, your pictures, your behaviors, and your friends, etc. But in the screen, there is behaviors. Something is happening. We are in a transfer process. So you are here, but there is another Guy Hoffman, there is another Jean Cloteau, there is another Alba, Michel, and Javier. There is another one out there with many informations, with many data, many memories. There is another one. And the other one is there, and you can manage to be connected with your other self, but something is happening. So we have to take care. Of course, we can continue to meet, but we have to take care about this other self. So we will continue to increase. I think offline, online is very important because the trust. So okay, I am a baker, so I have to make my bread, and you have to eat my bread, and we have to eat together. So I am the mom of the bread, and you will eat my bread. So we are humans. So we will continue to eat, to think, and to make friends, etc. And there is other virus will come. So we will of course adapt ourselves as the September 2001 case. Travel will never be the same. So we need to. But of course we adapt and we continue to travel, and there is a risk, and we continue to, okay. So this is not a good approach of saying, okay, now everything will be Zoom. No, not at all. But of course, trips will be longer. If I am going to Cornell, I will stay maybe 2 months because I have the quarantine, disinfection, cheat, and I will stay more. So because I will stay more, the connection will be stronger. I have to move to my holidays. And I talked with Chip Conley from Airbnb. You will move. So you will be on holidays, but of course you will continue to work remote on holidays, and you will go for longer periods because you need to sanitize, you need okay, blah, blah, blah. So it's very interesting. There is evolution, and Professor Hoffman, you are right. We need to continue to be on real interaction. I mean, I don't know if the word is offline, but physical connection, of course.
Okay, thank you. I have a last question now to close it out. For people who have lost internships and other people that want to do design thinking type things this summer, do you have any tips on how to stay busy?
I have many tips, but Professor?
Because of the late hour, I'm going to keep it short. I think the tips are to, like, I'm thinking about students, especially at your stage. Develop your portfolio. That's a great time to do so. Learn graphics. If you're not very strong on that, learn graphical thinking. I think it's less about the skills, but it's more about trying to if you don't have an internship, if you can't look for jobs and opportunities. I got into art school when I decided I want to be an animator. I just spent 2 months learning how to draw, and then drawing, and then submitting a portfolio of 25 drawings to Parsons School of Design in New York, as if I've drawn my whole life, but I've never drawn before. I just, I basically, you want to practice something. You want to build a portfolio. Do you want to be a mechanical designer? Design 3 things that will never be built and make great CAD renders of it, and write something around them and create web pages for your design. You have an ODP project. That's a project in our class, an open design project. Make like a catalog for your ODP. Like, show people that if you have time, you do great work. This is what, and that's the kind of thing that people want to know. And now you have time to do it. Usually you're too busy to do that. So I would say, like, in one sentence, develop your portfolio if you have time this summer, and it'll pay off, I think, in a very big way.
Fully agree. You need your identity now is not just your name, your surname, and your university, your MBA, whatever. This is finito. So you need a real strong resume, but not a resume like 2 pieces of paper. You need a digital identity, and there is many channels. There is Instagram, LinkedIn, Urigi, Twitter, etc. This is very interesting because this is also your portfolio. You have to show things over there. Be very transparent about the process, the learning process, the discovering process. Now I am here in this design thinking talk, doing this and this. Now I am eating. So try to describe a little bit, depend on your creativity. Describe what you are doing, why you are doing this, what is your purpose. Purpose will be a key word in the future. Not the super diploma and the super skill, but yes, the purpose and how you communicate. For me, is more than communication. Is about what is your self inside motivation. What is your motion? So there is people with the same skills, one bigger than another, higher than another, but there is people without and with motion. Whoa. And this motion is not about being extraverti, introverti, and bullshitty. No, it's about what moves this person. And when you have a strong motion inside, you have to learn to move others, to motivate others. Otherwise, it will be very tough. Will be very tough because I think the point is how to become more competitive. Okay, you have the intern. Urigi, the startup is open to you guys to have, because we are based everywhere, so you can be interns and we certify the internship. But the point is how you continue to be competitive. And the key word is also be generous, be useful. If you are an engineer in Cornell, share about what it means to be in Cornell. Be useful for others. Be a giver, not only a receiver. I need this, I need that. I am a young student. I need money. I need jobs. No. What you are giving, what is your contribution?
Perfect. Thank you both. Thank you, Jean. Thank you, Professor Hoffman, for joining us for this design thinking talk. And thank you all for showing up, for coming. Excuse me. If you guys want to add your LinkedIn information or something into the chat and go on about that, that's fine. If not, the presenters, you guys are free to go if you have something to attend to. Thank you.
All right. Thanks a lot. Have a great night and enjoy the summer.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
You as well.
So you have my WhatsApp, guys, so you can, WhatsApp is open to everyone. And I am not a one-man show. I have a 30 people team. So the team is, there is members of the team here. So the team is also is younger than me. So you have a 20 years old team, 25 years old team. So the team is available also for you guys. And this is an open sharing company in the case of my company. So everyone must and can be a Urigi member, Urigi user, Urigi engineer. We have a user experience engineering. We have a user interface, software, designers, marketing, design, because marketing is not just about selling, it's about designing, thinking the strategy, and of course, all the administration of the projects, the expansion, etc., etc., etc. So we are very open, because more you become members of an organization like ours, more we grow and more we can intensify the collaboration in the future. Okay.
Perfect.
So LinkedIn is important. This video will be on YouTube in a few minutes. So we can even share our meeting. Michelle, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Have a nice evening. Gracias, Sebastián.
No, muchas gracias a usted
Chévere.
por ayudar con eso, y me encantó que pudiste tener esa conexión con mi profesor.
Bellísimo, bellísimo.
Sí, me encantó el talk, estuvo informativo.
Estuvo muy rico y muy complementario entre los diferentes, las diferentes intervenciones. Mariana, Marianita, Gildre, Wilfredo.
Hola.
Hola. Un arquitecto.
Bueno, feliz noche. Sí.
Esto es que un hexágono, ¿no? 1, 2, 3.
Ese es el muro calado de la Facultad de Arquitectura.
Es un pentágono.
Tú ves así desde fuera. Ajá.
Un pentágono.
Es un muro calado. Sí.
Bueno, muchísimas gracias a todos.
Chao, feliz noche.
Gracias a ustedes.
Feliz noche.
Gracias, Mariana. Gracias, Wilfredo. Marianita, chao.
Chao.